authentic conversations, transparency, honesty, pacing, building rhythm and rapport, being casual and confident. These are some of the key elements that I have found to be important to create conversations around this beautiful vehicle that we have of Purium and of our superfoods and of healing and of creating financial abundance and sovereignty and all of the good things that we know and love about this path. And so that's what I want to talk with you all about today, because I know in the beginning it can be a little bit confusing about how to talk about this. I think a lot of us know how not to talk about it, or maybe we've had some experiences that show us how not to talk about it. We realize that something we're doing isn't exactly working. But how do we talk about it? So let's start with like how not to. I mean, I think that most of us at this point have heard, and maybe you haven't, if maybe you're watching the recording and this is brand new for you. We want to avoid verbal vomititis, as they say. We want to never overwhelm people. So this really goes for anything in life. This isn't just, Purium, but I think one of the things that I've noticed with myself that has really like a thing that I can look back at my old self and compare to myself now is that I'm much more skilled and practiced at noticing where the other person is and mirroring them where they are. Because we all know like that experience when, and maybe you've been on one or the other side of this dynamic where someone writes, 3 paragraphs and the other person writes back with 1 sentence, and then the other person writes back with 3 more paragraphs or 5 paragraphs and the other person 1 sentence. That dynamic isn't sustainable. Like those are the conversations that usually drop off. And then you're left in this place. If you're the person who's oversharing, you might feel like, oh man, like what do I do? Like, do I say, hey, have you read my message or whatever? But like that feels like you're bugging them, or it could create like this sense of guilt for the person who hasn't yet. And I think that it can be tempting to do that when we're sharing about Purium, because we're so excited and we see so many different aspects, and it can be so hard to boil it down into like a simple share because it's so profound, it's so deep, and those feelings are real. The passion is real, and we're all going to experience this, especially when we're at convention. We're going to have so much. We're going to be loaded with information and with passion and with ideas and excitement, and it can be so easy to message people and just want to share that. Just want to be like, and then they told us about this and the biomedic, and it's actually on special right now, which is a really good price. Do you realize like how good that is? And then, but this other element of it is the community, and the community is so amazing. It's filling my heart, and da 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 da. Like all that is real. But if you're not in that vibe already and you get a communication like that, you might be happy for the person, but you're probably not going to lean in. Probably be like, whoa, it's a lot of energy, because I have my own life going on. And I have my own stuff that I'm all about and interested about and passionate about. Or maybe I'm not even feeling interested and passionate, but I'm just overwhelmed by like my 3 jobs I'm holding, or my kids, or whatever's going on in my life. And so what we want to do here is we want to foster relationships. We want to create rhythm and rapport. So when I say rhythm and rapport, you want to create a dynamic where you're reaching out to someone and they're reaching back. This is rhythm. Reaching and then reaching out again, and they're reaching back, where it's an easy flowing conversation and the person is feeling like they want to reach back and they want to talk to you. And rapport is established by doing the same thing, by showing the person that you're right there where they're at, that you're casual and confident and just chilling and just sharing from your heart and not making it a huge deal. So these are really important elements to think about, both when you're talking with people online, maybe on Facebook chat or on Instagram, direct message, or over text, but also when you're talking to people in person. what I've noticed is that it's really important to watch, if you're in person, body language. But then if you're online, you don't get that added that benefit of body language. So you really have to be a little bit more fine-tuned into where that person is at. So I wanted to talk about this especially, and I can definitely go into more depth, but because one of the most important things to do when you're getting started is to find a couple people that you can share with right away. Because even if you get it in your mind, you're like, I want to do this, it doesn't matter how long it takes me, like I'm gonna share Purium with people. Like even if you have your mind set on that, which I think a lot of people coming into this may not yet, they're still playing with the idea. Even if you're solid in that idea, there's a psychological reality to the fact. There's actually was a study that Eric Ware did, some kind of study. I don't know how statistical it was, but they found that people are, and I don't have all the exact numbers here, but people are very much more likely to continue rocking a network marketing business as a professional in the long run. They're more likely to, the shorter time it is between the moment they enroll as a brand partner and the moment that they get their first check. Okay, so it does something in the reward center of the brain. It really actually doesn't matter how big that check is for, or that direct deposit, that compensation. It could be $1, they found. But if that person gets that $1 or more check within the first couple days, couple weeks, several weeks, couple months, they're more likely to continue in the long run. The longer it stretches between that happening, the less likely people are to stick with this. So when you are finding new brand partners to help us, whether your mission, your drive comes from helping people, or whether it comes from making money and creating financial freedom, whatever it comes from, there's other reasons too that you could be doing this, but whatever it comes from, you're going to be able to achieve that goal and to support this mission better if you are helping your new brand partners get into action as quickly as possible. So after convention, I'm going to be doing a training because my team has been using the system for new brand partners. And I sort of thought everyone was doing this, but I talked to Sarah, and it turns out like it's a version of things that I think everyone is doing, but we're doing it in a way that's really working. And so, so I'm going to share that system with you. I'm going to create a document about it and share it probably after convention. But part of it includes, actually part of it includes this video right now, but part of it includes starting these conversations, because part of the system is right when you get started doing a network notebook, which is, you know, setting your timer for 5 minutes on your phone and writing down every name that comes to mind without pre-qualifying or prejudging them, and then circling the ones that are the low-hanging fruit, the people who are the most easy yeses for sure, and then starting conversations with those people. And another part of it is going public with your story medicine post right away, and then reaching out to all the likes and comments of people who have interacted with that. So when you're doing that, it's really important to start those conversations in a way that's going to be fruitful for you, okay? And is going to give you or that brand partner their results as quickly as possible. They say success loves speed, and it's really true. And when you can create momentum, that can be really helpful as well. So, so when you're reaching out, let's just get nuts and bolts here. So when you're reaching out to someone, you know, I already talked about how not to do it, right? Like, don't just dump a bunch of information, and don't sales pitch, because people, frankly, are allergic to the sales pitch. Now, this is something that not every team on Purium trains on, but for me, this is how I train with my team, and it's really working. So I tend to do the things that work. I encourage people not to use, not to use the word Purium in their posts until they're well into their journey and people already know what they're doing, and then only sporadically. And I encourage people not to, and this is different than when we first started, so some of you may have to reprogram your mind a bit around this. I encourage them not to do any sort of pitch at all. So that means when you're doing your story, don't write at the bottom, if you're interested in this, let me know. I'd love to talk. Not even that. People, I mean, think about yourself. If you're reading someone's story online, you already know that if you're interested in it, you can reach out to them. Like, we all know that. And so when you say that, it seems like online speaking is very nuanced, right? Like, especially speaking by text, because you don't have the body language or the tone of voice to go by. So people really read text, even if they don't think they are, pretty exactly, pretty specifically. So anything you do is sort of under a microscope. It's a little bit scary, but like, think about how you read people's posts. Like, people will interpret a lot out of it. So if you want to create a space that's inviting to the most amount of people, you really want to pay attention to what you're saying. So a lot of people, I mean, in the online space right now, we're bombarded by opportunities and advertisements and affiliate programs like all the time. I mean, many of us are. Definitely most millennials are used to that. And definitely influencers get pitched all the time. So they could have just read your story and feel like super in alignment with you. But then at the end, you follow it up with, if you're interested in this, reach out to me and let's connect. And it sort of ruins it. Because then they're left, because branding and marketing, you know, anyone who works in marketing to begin with, and really marketing is storytelling, that's what it is, it's sharing. It's all about unconscious emotion. It's all about how it makes people feel. And so if you've just made them feel really good and connected and empathic with you, and then at the very end, you throw in something that makes them close off, it's not going to work as well. You might still catch a certain amount of people who can, you know, maintain that feeling or have sort of like the complex emotional openness to sort those feelings out and separate them from each other. But a lot of people aren't putting that much time or attention into it. They're just going to go for it. They're just going to go for whatever they feel. So I encourage people not to put any kind. The closest that I come with putting a quote unquote pitch at the end is just saying, are you feeling me? If so, drop me this hashtag in the comments. You know, just asking for support more than like letting people know that you can do this too. Because that comes later. So what you want from your going public post, your story medicine post, your any post you make on Facebook, is what you're trying to get with that post is actually engagement. It's not the step where you're trying to convert to a sale or a share. That comes in your relationship that you're building. So the point of your post is to create engagement. So you want to do the thing that will make the most people engage. And so that's when we talk about getting vulnerable and authentic. And this hero's journey format is very effective because it's the grand human story of all times, overcoming adversity, seeing a better way, going on the journey to get there, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to end it in a way that keeps that vibe going and gets engagement. And also there's an element of being in abundance, being in an abundance mentality. Because whenever we're asking for something, it's not to say don't ask, because there are totally, totally appropriate situations to ask for help. And I know that's something that some people struggle with, is that's their challenge, is actually asking. So I'm not encouraging you to like never ask. I think it's really good to be able to ask and receive for what you want. But I think it's also, if you're creating a brand yourself online and telling your story, it's good to just create the environment where people will want to do what you're doing or want to ask you about what you're doing without you asking them if they want more information, right? So we're actually doing instead of speaking. We're creating that experience. So when you've done this, you get, you know, a bunch of likes and comments, and, or, you know, if you're in person, well, let's just stay with online right now. So then then what you want to do, ideally, is go through and talk to as many of those people as possible. If you had 20 people like it and 5 comment, you know, then ideally within 24 hours, you want to have a message to all of those people. Or if you had 200 people like and 50 comment, you know, it's good to follow up as quickly as possible, because people have short attention spans and the online world goes very fast. One moment. So then we get to the point where what this training is really about. I'm going to be training about more of this stuff later, but it's creating the conversation. Okay. So once you have all those people to reach out to, or maybe you have them from your network notebook, you want to start reaching out. So like I said, you don't want to reach out and be like, oh my God, blah, 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 all the stuff, da, 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 da. Like rhythm and rapport. So what's the best first message to send? Well, I see Derek on my screen here. So I'm going to say, hey, Derek, send. That's it. Okay. No more. I could say, hey, Derek, how's it going? You know, just simple, because that's easy to reply to. One-liners are easy to reply to, because then Derek's sitting on Facebook and he gets, hey, Derek, how are you? And then he's just going to go, hey, Robin, I'm good. How are you? That's easy. If I was like, hey, Derek, I saw you like my post. Thank you so much for liking it. I really appreciate your support. You know, this has been really beautiful for me and I really appreciate you. And you're someone who I think a lot about. And so I would like to share this with you. Are you open if I sent you a link? Would you check it out and know what you think? Maybe Derek loves the message. Maybe he's like, oh, that's so touching, but I don't have time to reply to that right now and I don't have time to watch the link. So I'm not going to reply. And then you're left hanging. You're like, wait, did he not like it? Maybe I offended him. What happened? And then you got to clean that up. And even if you loved it, you still got to clean it up. So let's avoid having to clean it up in the first place. So you start out, hey, Derek, how's it going? He replies, that's good. That's rhythm. He replied, I'm great. How are you? Is this the time to bring up your whole thing? No, not yet. Then, oh, I'm doing good. I'm just chilling at home. It's really hot here, so I'm sitting in my air-conditioned room at the moment. I'm so stoked that I have an AC unit. You know, something trivial. Something you can be like, oh my God, yeah, I get it, da da da. So just to create that rhythm and rapport, a little bit of small talk, maybe some humor. But also, I'm looking at you blues and whites. Don't keep this going for too long, because that's the other trap that you can get into, is like, I'm in a small talk for like 5 days back and forth before I bring up Purium. No. I say 2 to 4 back and forths. And then at that point, then you're going to do a number of things. It sort of depends on the context. So just going off this Facebook post thing, let's say that they commented or liked on your story. After you've got that rhythm and rapport, then you can say, hey, I noticed you liked my post that I made about my transformation I've been going through. It was pretty vulnerable. I appreciate your support. And you know, I think of you as someone who's really great for this reason. Like, I look up to you, and I feel like this is something you might really enjoy too. I'm just curious, if I sent you this link, would you check it out and let me know what you think? You know, that's one way. At this point in the conversation, what you want to do is you want to be congruent with your relationship with the person. So if it's someone you don't know so well, you might say what I just said. If it's your best friend, you might be like, hey, that post you liked, it's amazing. This is rocking my world, and I know you would love it. So I want to send you this link. Will you check it out? Let me know what you think. It's more direct, right? Because that's how you're going to be with your best friends. If you be all tentative, your best friends are going to be like, who are you? Like, why are you, this feels weird. So at this point, it requires some tailoring. You know, you could take the David Scoltetti method, and you could say, hey, I just, I want to let you know that I've recently started a relationship with this superfood business, got the highest quality products I've ever found, and I'm actually looking for some people who would be interested in trying them out. I'm curious if you know anyone who would be interested in something like that. You know, if I sent you this link, would you check it out? or something like that. There are a lot of different postures that you can come from at this point, and maybe we can create a document at some point that gives like examples of a lot of different postures. But what I wanted to point out in this is rhythm and rapport, building the rhythm and rapport, right? And then once you get past that rhythm and rapport, it's all about casual confidence, because people want it to feel casual. They don't want to be in a formal like dynamic with someone. Most people don't. Maybe in certain business situations, sure, but most of your friends just want to feel it's chill, low stress, no expectations, just a conversation. And this is especially important in person, because when you get your tone of voice and your body language into it, people can really like feel if it's casual or intense. And some people like intense, but most people prefer casual. So casual and confident, I got that from watching David Scoltetti talk. He's just so chill about it. And people want to be with people who are chill, because this world is intense. It's high stress. And you don't need another high stress thing in your life. So be one of the people that's like a sanctuary, that's just like chill. And it's like, when I'm in person, I don't even really ask people anymore, like if they want information. People ask me what I'm excited about or what I'm doing or how I'm doing, and I just let them know how I'm doing. And then I watch them, it's like, ask me like, so what are you up to these days? I'm like, oh, I've been totally rocking it with this superfood company that my friends run. Products are great. The people I'm sharing with really appreciate it, created a lot of healing, and I'm making better money with it than I ever have. Or I'm working towards making it my full-time income, and I'm really excited about it. Stop. In person, I stop there. And then watch them. Like, you're going to be able to tell what they think. If they're just like, so, blah, 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 blah. They're probably not interested. Maybe write down that you talk to them and you can circle back around. There's someone who might need another drip. They might need 7 drips before they actually show you that interest. But another person, when I say that to them, they go, wow, that sounds really cool. Congratulations. And then I'll say, oh yeah, totally. I mean, I love it. And I'm actually helping other people engage with this as well. People a lot like you. I'd love to send you some info. Would you like to check it out? Something like that, if they're leaning in. But when they're leaning in, don't fall for the trap of then really letting it rip and going for it. You want to leave the conversation, whether it's online or in person, with the person leaning in and asking for more. You don't want to use that opportunity to completely overshare and have them like get this stance. Like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm happy for you. You can tell the difference in the body language of someone. So you want to leave it at that point where they're feeling curious, so that you can send them a link and then they can check it out. Let the tool do the work. The tool is going to be better at explaining it in a straightforward, chill, confident way. There's going to be more of the info there than you could share in person. Plus, it's starting duplication from the beginning. It's showing that person in their unconscious mind that if they ever wanted to share this, all they have to do is speak a little bit about how they're feeling and then share a link with someone. And that's really duplicatable. That's something that can really grow your business much faster than people thinking that they have to be an expert, right? So I think you guys get where I'm going with all this, and we could do lots of examples and stuff. But what I want to move on to is addressing objections, because sometimes people will say right away, or when you ask them if they want the link, they'll say, wait a second, is this a pyramid scheme? Or they'll say, I'm not interested in my friends trying to sell me products. People have trauma. Some people have trauma around being pitched, right? First of all, when I'm sharing with someone, I don't consider it pitching. Because even though functionally you may have the same actions that are happening through sharing or pitching, it's a very different vibration. Pitching, like, it sort of has a connotation, at least for some people, that you're trying to get them to do something, right? And again, maybe that has the same functional actions as sharing, but the energy is very different. What I'm doing is I'm opening the door. I'm opening the door. I'm providing a resource to as many people as possible so that a certain number of them will say, yes, so I will have a successful business. Yes, I'm honest about that, you know, with myself. And I'm not necessarily going to share that with them right away, but more talking philosophy, what's going on inside the head right now. But like, I think sometimes we adopt like these negative labels in order to be overly apologetic or to get critical with ourselves. And so even if someone ever like blames you for pitching them, you don't have to hold yourself to that. And you don't have to be that. In fact, if someone ever does get defensive with you or accusatory or blaming, the best thing to do is remain calm and confident and be empathic. You know, Eric Worre always says that if you have someone say something like this, the best thing to do is stop and go, wow, it sounds like you have a story around this. What happened? And listen and reflect and empathize. Because maybe someone did have a negative experience in their family or with themselves. And then you can say, wow, that doesn't sound fun at all. I'm sorry you had to go through that, you know? Or maybe they just have part of the cultural story and they say, oh yeah, I saw that John Oliver show about it, you know? And then you can be like, then you can say, oh yeah, that's pretty crazy. You know, he was talking about this one business, but you know, businesses are different. You know, and the one I'm working for, I really love. We do it differently. One thing I'll say a lot of times right off the bat, if someone brings that up, is I'll say, hey, I will be the first to say that a lot of people do network marketing, or what was formerly known as MLM, badly. A lot of companies teach it badly. And just because a certain company has the same business structure doesn't mean that they have the same culture. Just because Taco Bell has shitty Mexican food doesn't mean that all Mexican food is bad. So I just want to let you know, I agree with you. Most people do it wrong. But just so you know, I'm part of an evolution of this culture, which is working on offering some really beautiful, effective plant medicines or products in a way that is based on consent culture, asking permission, not being salesy, and just sharing from our heart what we love. That's like 2 sentences right there, and it disarms everybody because you are agreeing with them. And then you're letting them know that there's a different way of doing it. And sometimes I'll ask a question at the end of that and say, would you like to know more about why this is different? You know, because there you are, you're embodying. You said we use consent culture, and then you're giving an example of it right away. And most people are gonna say, okay, sure. So practicing this and getting confident in it, and part of it is building your own belief and your own confidence. Because if you don't fully believe in this, or you're on the fence, and it's going to be really hard to stand in your power in a chill way with someone who's questioning it. So one of the best things you can do for that is to attend an event like convention, where you'll learn a lot about it. So you can have your own concerns addressed, or to listen to an audiobook like GoPro from Eric Worre, or to talk to your mentor. There's a lot of ways to build your belief, but it's good to look at yourself. You know, we do this 7 areas of belief thing, training, exercise. We're not going to do it right now, but in your own time, you can look at, you know, network marketing as an industry on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's your belief? You know, rate yourself. And if it's any less than a 10, then you have some work to do. And that work is really important in order to actually attract brand partners, because it's important to be in your power, you know, to be solid. Look at other things in your life. Are you a birth worker? Are you into progressive politics? You know, like I was super big on supporting Bernie. I don't care who you were supporting, but back during the last presidential stuff, I was all about Bernie. And so one of my mentors said to me, like, if someone questioned you about Bernie, would you like doubt yourself? He's like, no. What would you do? I'd be like, oh, well, that's fine that you think this, but I'm here. So it's important to build that kind of conviction with this path, with this company, with these products, with this team, with our owners, with our culture, with our industry, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you're coming to convention, good on you, because that is really going to help create this for you. So handling objections, I think this is all really important stuff, because when people feel you in that space, not only are they more likely to engage, but it's also actually doing a part in healing the collective story around this model, which to me is something that we're doing. Even if someone doesn't end up enrolling, we're still helping to heal this and show that there's a different way, which is good for all of us. And I appreciate when I meet people in other companies who are also teaching this, because that helps us too. We all are helping each other, even if we're in different companies, if we're showing that there is a good, positive, ethical way of doing this. That's why I refer to what we do as new school ethical network marketing, right? So there's more I could say about that, but I think I'll leave this here for now on that part. I do want to address something else, and that is the idea of apologetic language. So I've noticed this happening sometimes, and it makes sense to me. So first of all, what is apologetic language? Apologetic language is when you give people an out before you even ask them to consider, or maybe with your ask. So it, for example, would be something like, hey, if I shared this link with you, would you check it out and let me know what you think? But if you don't want to, that's totally fine. That's apologetic language. You're essentially sabotaging yourself. And this can also happen on Connect calls when you want to ask people, oh, I'd love to introduce you to my friend Tala. He's great, you know, he introduced us to me. Would that be okay? If you ask, it's apologetic language. Here's what happens in the brain when you do something like that, in the brain of the person who's receiving the communication. They don't even know this is happening most of the time. They think, they just asked me if that would be okay. That means there's a reason that it might not be okay. I don't know why it would be okay or not be okay. So I'm going to play it safe and say no, because I'm not sure. And then they say no. So what you're doing by adding apologetic language into your ask is essentially sabotaging what you're asking them to do. It's not standing in your power. I know that we do it, especially my blues, sometimes my whites, because you want to be sensitive. And that is beautiful. It's so sweet. You're considering the other person and you want them to feel comfortable, and that's great. But consider that when you use apologetic languaging, you are potentially overcompensating, because everyone has their own power and sovereignty, and they can say that they don't want to. And so when you are creating that space for them, you're actually encroaching on their space. It's not the most empowering thing to do, because if someone, like if that's someone's thing where they need to speak up if they're not feeling comfortable, then let them do that. That's their path. You can say it in a way which makes it very palatable, but also powerful. And then if they don't want to, they can speak. And so I know all my blues are like, oh, but I want to make sure they're okay. And great, beautiful. We love that about you. We need that sentiment. But watch when you're enabling people's patterns. Watch when you are, because it may not be the most empowering thing to do for them in the long run of their personal growth, and it's also sabotaging your ask. So there's a lot of examples of apologetic language, but it can duplicate really quickly. So if you're doing apologetic language and people on your team hear you saying that, they're going to start doing it, and then they're going to start doing that, and then everyone's going to say, why isn't this working? It works for everyone else. It doesn't work for me. Well, look at the vibe you're setting. So watch that. and practice it. You can practice with your sideline. You can practice in the Miracle Makers group. You can practice on Zooms. In fact, I think we are going to go ahead and do some breakout rooms in a minute and have all of you practice this stuff. So I got a question come in privately, and the question is, what's the difference between, this question came in a minute ago, between that and asking for permission. Question came from Valley. Valley, if you wanna, I don't totally understand what you were saying with what that was. So if you wanna clarify your question, I'll try and answer it in a minute. So what all of this is creating rhythm and rapport, and it's speaking with transparency and honesty. We don't need to hide anything. We can just be confident in what we're doing. And when we try and hide something, like if someone says, oh, is this network marketing? Valley, hold on just 1 second. I saw you come off mute, but just 1 second. If you could actually type it, that'd be great. We can say like, yes, yeah, it is. And I'm so excited. Like when you set that, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you, Valley, because I'm on a flow here really quick, and then try and write your question. We can be excited about it. A lot of times, like if we get like, oh no, like we actually turn someone off. I was looking for network marketing. Rachel Ballensott, who's at Crown, she was looking for it. People are looking for it. Kristen, who's my green diamond under me, she was looking for it. When she asked, is this network marketing? I said, yes, excitedly, you know? So be careful with that apologetic languaging and notice where your belief levels are. So this is transparency. This is realness. This is honesty. And if anyone ever asks you a question that you can't answer, just tell them that. Hey, that's a great question. I'm actually not sure about that, but I can go find out for you. And I have a question. Is that question important enough that it would hold up the process we're in right now of getting you started? Or can we go ahead and keep going? And if it is important enough, then you can stop, say, okay, well, I'll go find out and get back to you. Schedule another call. They say, oh no, it's okay, let's just keep going. Then just keep going, you know? And note the question and try and get it answered. So people really appreciate when you're honest with them. And they can feel it when you're trying to answer a question that you don't actually know the answer to. And that feels weird. So, man, it's actually so simple. Like I have people from my downline, and it's fine. You guys can keep doing this. They screenshot a conversation, send it to me, like, how would you respond to this? And I'll send them a response. Like, oh, you're so good at that. Well, thank you. But also, I'm just being honest and real. Like if you've ever done that with me, look back at the responses I've given you. I just say what's real. I'm just like, oh yeah, totally. That's a really valid concern. You know, from my experience, this is really different than things in the past. I'd love to tell you about the differences or how it's been for me. Would you like to have that conversation? You know, whatever. It's just like I think what's important to do and what I've learned to do is to get out of my scarcity. Because when you're in your scarcity mentality, it blocks you, right? And so you want to reply from this like doing whatever you have to get them or to make it happen. And a lot of times that's speaking in a way that doesn't feel authentic or true or honest or transparent. So the thing is, when you get an objection or when you're talking with someone or anytime, not even an objection, also a positive conversation, you want to like stop and feel into yourself and affirm, this is a long-term path. I'm going to be working with a lot of people. There are plenty of people in the world that want this. I'm abundant with connections. And if I don't have the kind of money that I want from this yet, I will by doing this. This will give me better, being in abundance will give me better results. And slow down, get into that space of, I don't need you. I would love to open this door for you because I care and I love it. And come from that place. And when you do that, people, they feel good. They like it. They want to. People want this. We just have to get out of our own way. Okay? So Valley's question, and thank you all for the beautiful comments in the chat. I'm keeping some of them as they come in. Valley says, how do we obtain consent to share without coming across as apologetic? Ooh, good one. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I think just it's just in the delivery, and it's just in being straightforward. You know, if you're saying things like, if that would be okay, that's apologetic. But if I sent you this link, would you check it out and let me know what you think? There's no apology in there. It's just asking a question. So it does come down to like somewhat subtle languaging, but especially when you're online over text or over text on your SMS, like those little words mean a lot. So it's about asking in a way that is, that's obtaining consent without being apologetic. So I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of this. I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to keep the mastermind going here. So I'm just going to say, so stick with me here, everyone who's on live. I'm just going to say to all of you watching the replay, I hope you found a lot of value out of this. And these are good things to practice. So take some time to practice with your upline mentor, practice with your sidelines, practice in the mirror, practice over text, write some things that, write some different ways. Find what feels authentic to you, and then practice and know your responses. Know if someone asks you in person, so what do you do? Be ready with your response. Don't practice by doing it. I mean, you can practice by doing it live, but it can be a bit scary to be in the moment and be like that. So please use this, and this will be part of a training that I'll be rolling out after convention. So thanks for watching.